Welcome to Mind Shield. We protect the mind and pursue the truth. Let's get started.
All right, let's jump right in. Today we're looking at a US patent that honestly sounds like something straight out of a science fiction movie. And what's so cool about it is how it shows us where real, cutting-edge neuroscience meets some really wild speculation.
I mean, just listen to that title for a second. Method and device for producing a desired brain state. Wow. That is a bold, provocative claim, and it immediately makes you ask a pretty big question.
So what are we really looking at here? Is this the blueprint for a legitimate medical tool, or is it something else entirely? That's exactly what we're going to figure out in this explainer by going right to the source material.
Okay, so what in the world does this patent, US6488617, actually describe? Let's peel back that flashy title and look at the nuts and bolts of what it's proposing.
Well, the patent itself describes a system for therapy. The phrase you really need to latch onto here is closed-loop feedback. It's not about forcing a state onto the brain out of the blue. It's more about, guiding the brain from one state to a better one, while constantly checking to see how it's doing.
So let's break that down, because this closed-loop idea is the absolute core of the whole thing. It's a standard concept in engineering, really, but applying it to the human brain, well, that's where things get interesting. The easiest way to think about it is like a smart thermostat in your house. It senses the temperature, it checks if that matches the temperature you want, and if it's too cold, it turns on the heat. This patent is basically proposing that same idea, but for your brain waves.
And this lays it out perfectly. So first, you'd measure the brain's electrical chatter using an EEG. Then a computer takes that reading and compares it to a target, let's say the brain patterns of someone who's really calm or focused. If there's a difference, it sends out little magnetic pulses to gently nudge the brain's activity in the right direction. And then it measures again and adjusts again, over and over. A continuous loop.
Now check this out. We just walked through that simple four-step process, right? Well, this is the actual diagram from the patent. I know, it looks like a crazy bowl of spaghetti, but don't get bogged down in the details. The fundamental idea is still that simple little thermostat loop we just talked about.
So the big question is any of this actually grounded in reality? Well, this is where we can connect the dots between the idea in the patent and real established medical science. Believe it or not, the idea of using magnets to influence the brain isn't sci-fi at all. It's the whole basis of a treatment called transcranial magnetic stimulation, or TMS. It's a real FDA-approved therapy for depression, where a magnetic coil is placed right on the person's head to help their brain cells. So this patent is really just suggesting a smarter, more responsive version of a technology that already exists. And this is absolutely crucial. We have to draw a line in the sand between what's plausible and what's pure fantasy. The plausible part is a clinical tool, something that requires physical contact with the head to help guide brainwaves for therapeutic reasons. The sci-fi fantasy is some kind of remote control weapon that can make you do things or implant ideas from a mile away. The patent is describing the first one, not the second. But let's be honest, that sci-fi version, that remote coercion idea, is exactly what gets all the attention. It's what people worry about, and that's why we have to tackle this mind control angle head-on. This is the question that really fuels all the speculation, isn't it? Could you take the ideas from this patent, weaponize them, and use them on someone from a distance without them even knowing? Well, to answer that, all you have to do is actually read the document. You see, the patent never once mentions the words remote or wireless. In fact, it's pretty clear about needing electrodes and coils physically placed on the scalp. It's designed to influence general brain patterns, not to read your mind or implant specific thoughts. It's an overt, hands-on, therapeutic device. But, okay, let's just put the patent document aside for a moment, because the whole idea of remote magnetic mind control runs into a much, much bigger problem. A problem called the fundamental laws of physics. It all comes down to something called the inverse square law. And all that really means is that a magnetic field's strength just falls off a cliff as you move away from it. So to affect someone's brain from across a room, you'd need a magnetic generator so huge and powerful, there's just no way you could hide it. It's a deal breaker. And hey, don't just take my word for it. Here's a quote from a scientific report on this very subject. It basically says that even with our most advanced sensors in the world, we can't detect the brain's super faint magnetic signals from more than a few inches away. So the idea of remotely reading a brain, let alone writing to it, just isn't in the cards with any tech we know of. And on top of that, let's imagine for a second that such a device did exist. It wouldn't be a ghost. It would leave a trail of evidence, what we can call defensive signatures. You'd be able to measure weird magnetic fields around the target. The machine itself would have to be close by. And here's the kicker. Any changes in the brainwaves would have to be perfectly, and I mean perfectly, synchronized with the pulses from the device. That's what time-locked means. If the brain's response isn't happening at the exact same millisecond as the pulse, you can't say one caused the other.
So when you put this all together, this whole analysis gives us a really powerful toolkit, a way to think critically not just about this one patent, but about any claim you hear about these kinds of advanced technologies.
So here's a simple checklist you can use. Think of it as your personal reality check. If someone makes a claim, just ask, is there evidence of brain activity changing in perfect time with some kind of stimulus? Does a stronger stimulus create a stronger response? Can they make it happen again and again reliably? And, most basically, does it even obey the laws of physics? If the answer to any of those is no, you should probably be pretty skeptical.
In the end, this patent is a fantastic case study. It's a plausible, even if it's ambitious, idea for therapy that has been swept up into this world of speculative fantasy. And as these kinds of technologies keep getting more advanced, the big challenge for all of us is going to be applying that critical thinking, understanding the real science, and keeping that line clear between what's actually possible and what's just plain fiction.